Are they the Democratic Socialists of America or the Democratic Communists of America? Now, Saturday in America continued our investigation, and this week we bring you more evidence that communist may be a more appropriate description. Listen to this. On the group's main social media page, they promoted, quote, sometimes overlooked stories of members of the Communist Party USA. They also have an op-ed on their website talking about how young and dashing Karl Marx was. You know, that guy who wrote the Communist Manifesto, young and dashing. Well, last week we told you about the web of caucuses in the DSA, but we have a new addition. Meet the Communist Caucus. They, quote, follow Karl Marx when he wrote, "We call communism the real movement which abolishes the present state of things." And these caucuses know how to wield influence.
I'm a Marxist and a Maoist. There are a lot of caucuses in DSA that are DC. Why? Because it's a very effective way for a small group to work its will and get people not necessarily get people to adhere to its line, but project its influence.
Well, according to the bio of that self-described Maoist, he's a member of the Liberation Caucus, and he might already be trying to project influence on future members of Congress. Meanwhile, a former DSA member who will join this program is calling out his old group. Quote, DSA is not advancing cozy Scandinavian social democracy. The reality is, and it is well documented, that DSA has been taken over by Leninists. They control the governing board. Now, the glue that binds together this Pol Pot pancake is third worldism, baked in hatred of America and love for its enemies. In the next hour, we will take you inside the belly of the beast with former DSA member Jake Altman as he continues to blast his former group's extremist views. But first, what are members of Congress saying about their new radical platform? Joining me now, Texas Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar. Congressman Cuellar, this DSA threat in the Democratic Party is a real one. We see it here in New York City. We see it in D.C. We see it in Seattle. We see it across the country, frankly. And now they have this new platform abolishing the Senate. Those are some of your colleagues. Amnesty for all illegal immigrants, abolishing the Supreme Court. What is your take on this DSA takeover?
Well, first of all, good morning. And let me say this. Look, as a Democrat, I reject what the DSA is doing. I've read their platform. It is radical. They want to change the way we elect the president of the Supreme Court, get rid of the Senate, so constitutional changes there. They want to get rid of ICE. I reject that. They want to defund police. I reject that. Reject also the constitutional items. They want to have open borders also. I reject that. They want to get rid of prisons. I reject that. They want to get rid of oil and gas. In my area, I'm a big supporter of oil and gas. Those are good paying jobs. I reject that. So you can go down the line, and they're trying to use the Democratic Party. They're not talking about those radical positions. They're talking about affordability and housing, things that sound good. But we as Democrats, we reject that radical faction. And they don't even have their own party, but they're trying to use the Democratic Party and then build their own platform, or should I say their own party at a later time. I reject them completely.
Congressman, I really appreciate you saying it point by point that you reject socialism, and we need more Democrats like you to fight for your party. You're the party of JFK, and it's refreshing to hear that. I do want to ask you, though, when Gallup shows that 66% of Democrat voters like socialism, I want to know what you make of that. James Carville said to me it's a misunderstanding of socialism among voters. We need to educate people. What do you think it is? What do you hear from your constituents?
Well, first of all, in South Texas, we reject that. I mean, just yesterday I was traveling in South Texas. I talked to different folks, and actually some of them say, hey, we need to speak up because they don't represent the Democratic platform. They certainly don't represent our values or the South Texas. So again, we as Democrats have to reject what they're doing. They're not the socialism of Europe when they talk about healthcare, they talk about housing. They're way beyond that. Abolishing ICE, I reject it. Defunding police, I reject that. I mean, they're taking radical positions, but they're so afraid, or maybe they're trying to be smart about this. They're trying to talk about things that sound good for Democrats, affordability, housing, healthcare. but they don't talk about their extreme positions. And I bet you if they ran on their extreme positions, they would be soundly rejected by Democrats, Republicans, and independents.
I hope that's the case. And Jake Altman, who I mentioned, I'm going to be speaking with him next hour. He was a former local DSA leader. Here's what he said. What happened to the DSA can and will happen to the Democratic Party if more moderate Democrats don't organize against it. As Ruther, a man with experience fighting Leninists, wrote in 1948, you have to show communism up in the marketplace of ideas, expose it by honest dealing. How do you stop this? There are 13 of your colleagues who said we need to bind together in the House and call this out. Is it a coalition in Congress? How functionally do you stop it as a party?
Well, it's not only members of Congress, but it's really just the public. We have to be aware. And your next guest, he's right. You know, they make it sound like it's a socialism of Europe where they talk about health care and housing. But these folks are extreme. I read their platform before the last couple of days. It is so extreme, but they don't talk about their extreme positions. They're trying to use the safe Democratic seats to run in. And they also know that the Democratic Party is inadequate, but they're using us or trying to use the Democratic Party as a vehicle so later they can set up their own platform. Democrats, and I certainly call them among my Democratic friends in Congress, just reject them. You know, let's not say I'm not familiar with that. They're extreme. We ought to reject them. And I'll tell you, I've dealt with this DSA before. A couple of years ago, in 2 election cycles, the Justice Democrats, them and other folks spent $20 million against me or more in 2 primaries. I defeated them. And what I did, I stood for Border Patrol. I stood for strong border security. I stood up for oil and gas in a Democratic primary. And guess what? The Democratic voters in my district said yes and said no to the radical position. So your next guest is right. They need to be exposed.
Final question for you. I'm about to speak with Senator John Fetterman, and he said that he has a red line with the Democratic Party. And for him, that red line is when they leave Israel, that he would become a Republican. Do you have a red line where you would leave the Democratic Party?
Look, I'm a Democrat, and I will say this. I'm not going to let any extreme faction define me or define my party. I'm going to stand up. I'll be on that hill, and I'm going to fight those extreme positions, people out there, those factions. I've done it before, and I will continue doing that. I'm not going to leave the party. I'm going to fight for my Democratic Party, the John F. Kennedy Party, and that's what, we ought to be doing as Democrats.
Well, I hope you can recruit some of your colleagues in that endeavor. Thank you very much, Congressman Henry Cuellar.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.